Kyle, turn the TV, turn the volume down on that. I'm streaming and it's picking up the volume. All right. We're going to be continuing with our painting. I'm going to be continuing the legs on my Armiger Knight. We're going to be using Citadel Lead Belcher base coating and an Army Painter base coating brush. So let me just wet down my brush and we'll get started. Let a few more people know I'm going to be painting. Let's keep going. Hopefully I'll get some viewers while I'm doing this. Keep an eye on the chat. Okay, we've got a viewer. Welcome. Painting Armiger Knights, specifically the Armiger Warglaves. Base coating right now, some Lead Belcher with which is a Citadel paint using a Army Painter base coating brush. I'm just applying the base coat of Lead Belcher onto the legs that go underneath the armor. Okay, that's looking pretty good, as you can see here. Thank you. Do you have any questions? I just ask them in chat. I'll do my best to keep an eye on it and answer them in a timely manner. Okay, looks like I missed a couple spots. Always happens when when I don't have much light to work with. There we go. Now it's cleaning up really good. Very funny. The most interesting thing is that the fact that there's a quote that Robin Williams made is if it wasn't for the fact people died, history would be hilarious. Okay, now what I'm going to be doing now is going to be painting along the edge of what's going to be the trim of the armor for the legs right here, and along the feet with the same lead belcher. Also using the base coat of the Citadel brush. Just got to go ever so lightly so that there's a nice silver trim to contrast with the yellow of the armor. If I get any of the lead belcher onto where the armor is, that's not a big deal. I can always go back and touch up on it later. As you can tell that hi Ed, how are you? As you can tell, by the difference here, with one leg is before and how it's going to look after. Really need to get a camera with a light ring on it so you can see this better when I'm showing it my progress. Okay, so with that, we'll now do this armor panel here. Almost forgot, I need to add in I'm gonna put in some background music to help with will help me stay focused. Painting is going good, and I just started here about 5 minutes ago, give or take. Looks like I got a third viewer. Welcome. Okay, so the next thing we'll be doing is continuing on the armor trim. Nice and easy. Yeah, that's my stepson watching TV out there. getting at the trim when it's a little further down into the miniature. Try to get at as much of it as I can, but if I can't, it's not a big deal because it's in a spot where, unless you're looking at it through a magnifying glass, you're not going to notice. So doing good so far with the armor, with the trim on the shim, on the thigh armor. Yeah, the music's from the game Battlefleet Gothic Armada, which is a Warhammer 40K game based on an actual like specialist game called Battlefleet Gothic. Alright, so now with that done, I'm going to do the armor that's on the feet here, for the ankles and the bottom of the feet as well. It's also going to be using lead belcher for the base coat. Nice and steady. Now you can see a before and after with the ankle armor, how it's going to look. I do apologize that the lighting is not the best in this part of my house, but it's the only place where I can set up to do this. Okay, now the feet. Music is from a PC game, Battlefleet Gothic Armada, which is available to play on Steam. It's basically naval warfare, but in space, with the Warhammer 40K ships. So you could play as the Imperial Navy, you could play as the Space Marine chapters. You could play as the Chaos Legions, the Orc Pirates, Eldar, etc. Okay, that foot is done, as you can tell. Sorry, this camera can't autofocus, so I'm going to try to do my best to show. Oh, and there's a lot of irony with there's actually some history between Blizzard and Games Workshop, because originally they were supposed to make a Warhammer fantasy game, which turned into Warcraft, and then when they looked at stuff, and then it had something to do with I'm not exactly sure what happened between them, but it went from there, and then they looked at the 40K stuff, and Blizzard decided to create StarCraft, but just changed enough of it so that GW couldn't go after them. So, like, the Zerg would be the same thing as the Tyranids. Only difference is that the Terran Marines are not genetically augmented super soldiers like the Space Marines of 40K are. Warhammer 40K, Warhammer Space Marine could easily take down StarCraft Marine. There's a lot of series that took their inspiration from Warhammer. I mean, Gears of War, there's a lot of Warhammer influence with them. I mean, their lancers are very similar to the 40K chainswords. Of course, there are people that say that Warhammer ripped off Gears of War, but it's like, yeah, Warhammer's been around since the late 70s. Chainsword's definitely been around much longer than how long Gears of War's been out. That's looking good. Oh yeah, I mean, Warhammer takes place in the entire galaxy, where StarCraft is just one part, it's just one small sector. I'm not sure if you're being serious or silly with that question, Kevin. If 40K ripped off from D&D? Probably not. I mean, Warhammer, a lot of things are going to be, like, with Warhammer Fantasy, a lot of it can be traced back to being inspired by Tolkien and other works of the time. So, interesting, especially because Games Workshop now does the Lord of the Rings tabletop game, miniature game. But 40K takes a lot of inspiration from fantasy and science fiction. I mean, if any of you have ever watched the movie Event Horizon, it's kind of, some people have called it a 40K prequel because its direction and iconography is very similar, and it probably took some. They probably used some 40K stuff for Event Horizon. They just didn't have the permission from Games Workshop to use any of the terms for it. Alright, so I'm going to start working on the armor trim for the other legs. This one is great. This is pretty much done. This is pretty much... The lead belcher on these legs is pretty much done for now. Until I go to the next step. Yeah, I know you were interested in the Tau, which isn't, they're not a bad faction. Well, as far as design-wise, lore-wise, there's no. It's like I was at my local. When I was at the game store I go to, there was a kid asking who are the bad guys in 40K, and without missing a beat, one of the guys that plays it is like, it depends on your perspective. Warhammer it's not black, it's very not black and white as far as who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. It is told from the viewpoint of the humans of the Imperium, so that's probably as close as you're gonna get to good guys. I mean, if you wanted to go real decent guys, probably the Space Marines of the Salamanders chapter / Legion. They care a lot about protecting the civilian populace. I guess it could be argued that the orcs could be considered the good guys of 40K because all they care about is having a good scrap. That's right. Okay, top shin armor on that's done, so we're going to work on the ankles and feet, and then I'll have I can move on to the arms for these miniatures. hear a kitty. Here, let me stop for a second so you guys can see the cat. Hello. Big mirror death. It's not one of my streams without having a cat with me. How you doing? This is one of our cats, Meredith. As far as how many factions there are, there's quite a few. And some of the factions are divided into sub-factions. Want to say hi? Okay, I think you're ready to go. Alright, back. There you go. Back in. As far as how many factions, there's the Imperium, there's Chaos, there are abhumans that are called felinids, but they're not playable in the game. It looks like it's raining outside, which is nice. Don't get that a lot in Arizona. This is monsoon season, so at least we get it more often than usual. Goes back to the factions. There's obviously the Imperium, but that can be split up into several sub-factions, such as the Imperial Guard, the Space Marines, and I know there's a dog to my right. And then there is the Sisters of Battle, which Sisters of Battle are a very cool design. Best way I can describe the Sisters of Battle would be if the Catholic Church had the U.S. military's spending budget. Sisters of Battle is basically, just think of it as nuns in power armor firing bolter guns, which are pretty much, the bolter is like if you took a machine gun and that machine gun is firing RPG rocket propelled grenades. It is in essence a semi-automatic grenade launcher. It's a semi-automatic grenade launcher. We got the trim around the feet done. Well, at least the bottom part of the feet. I still have the ankle armor to do the trim around. But there's all the other factions with in the Imperium. There's the Inquisition, which no one ever expects them. Bumps. And there's the Adeptus Mechanicus, which is a very cool design looking faction. There's a lot of, like, it's like It's kind of hard to describe the appearance of the Mechanicus. It's... If Elon Musk became a... Basically, if Elon Musk started his own religion... Chaos, there are the Chaos Demons and the Chaos Space Marines. But the Chaos Space Marines were loyalist Space Marines that turned traitor. Okay, yeah, it's basically the Mechanicus would be if Scientology were fully realized. It's also like they pretty much maintain all the technology in the Imperium, but it's very religious. Like, they believe in the machine god. They use like incense and sacred oils to keep the machines running. It's kind of like a hybrid. It's like if the Catholic Church was run by the Church of Scientology and Elon Musk was the in charge of it all. So, SpaceX, the church. I know that was close to a Spaceballs reference. Okay, so I finished the silver trim on the armor and feet for this. So we are ready to move on to the next one. Oh, 40K is their lore is very, there's a lot of layers to it. Alright, so next thing I'm going to be doing is painting the gray in on the melee weapons for these minis, the Knight Warglaives, which this is the melee weapon. You can't really see it because it's mostly black, except for the yellow part I painted in already. This is called the Chain Glaive. So, yeah, think of it, it's basically, these are mechs with giant chainsaws for melee weapons. And the Mechanicus is based on Mars. That's their primary forge world. Okay. Yes, mechs with chainsaws does sound cool. That's kind of the Imperial Knights in a nutshell. Giant mechs with chainsaw swords. And these mechs are, I believe they're... let me look to see what I know the specs give like the average height of the knight, so let me just take a quick look here. Okay, an Imperial Knight is about 9 to 12 meters tall, which roughly in American is about 30 to 40 feet. So 40-foot tall mechs with chainsaw swords. But these are small compared to the Titans, which is another faction that's part of the Mechanicus, the Collegia Titanica. And the Titans are huge. Yeah, I would say the best example of like a Titan would be the movie Pacific Rim, but crank it up. These Titans are bigger than the Jaegers. I think they can easily, the Titans in that from them can easily jump up to over 100 feet tall and have much more devastating weaponry. Yeah, there was a size comparison that the largest class of Titan, which is called the Imperator Titan, it's a little bit bigger than the Statue of Liberty. So we're going to get started. This is also Lead Belcher. Still using the Army Painter base coating brush. Back to the factions. Let's see. There's a lot of different factions. There's a faction called the Officio Assassinorum, which is pretty much assassins. They kill the enemies of the Imperium both within and outside of it. So. Then you have other factions such as the there are alien factions such as the Eldari, which are basically space elves. And but they also split off into a couple of different factions. Yes, it can. Hello. You missed the kitty cameo, by the way, Sora. You've seen them before. If they were nearby, I tried to grab one right now so you can see them again. Go. You can tell it's starting to show the gray, Lead Belcher starting to show really well on here. She's seen them before. Not in person, mind you. I know there's certain friends of mine that cannot see the cats because they're allergic to them. Means they can't come over and hang out at my place. Just something I miss doing. Oh yeah, definitely. It's easier for me to get one of the dogs over here. Hershey. Or Sheldon. There we go. Here's Sheldon. Let me get him. Come on, Sheldon, get over here. Come on. Come on. You want to be on the screen? Come on. boy, Sheldon. Here's your doggo. Oh, the stuff that my wife does to him is way more embarrassing and hilarious. Yes, he's a small little guy. Little wiener dog. Of course he is. What wiener dog isn't cute? Alright, you can go down now. Enough embarrassing you for one night. Hi, Meredith. The kitten that made the cameo earlier is staring at me like, what am I doing? But she is quick as hell, so trying to catch her is not easy. No more cameos. I want to work on my painting. That's Bella, the oldest cat here. There we go, nice and steady. That's one of the chain glaive arms, finished with the lead belcher application. See it a lot better now that there's not all the black on it from the primer. That was one of my kids, the older ones. My wife is probably asleep right now. If not, she's watching Grey's Anatomy in her room. In our room, I mean. No, it does not say Pandalorian. It just says Mandalorian. If it was Pandalorian, it would not look just. It would have panda coloring. Okay. Look, it probably does exist. You just gotta look on like eBay or Amazon, or just a Google search. Speaking of Star Wars, how many of you have been watching the Obi-Wan Kenobi series? Yeah, I'm caught up on it as well. The most recent episode was really good. I have one gripe about it, but I don't want to talk about it if not everyone's caught up on it. am caught up on all the Marvel shows, though. Miss Marvel is interesting so far. Best way I can describe Miss Marvel, it's like Scott Pilgrim without the evil X's. That was the orange Maine Coon cat, Olivia. Used to be my sister's cat until she moved out of the country. I'm not sure. Yeah. The only thing that I only worry about is I'm not sure how accurate they are with portraying like Pakistani American culture. So hopefully they're doing it justice. At least Marvel has been pretty decent about portraying other cultures fairly accurately, mostly. I could be wrong on a couple of things. Okay, we got off track of what I was talking about earlier, the different factions in Warhammer. So Eldari, there's three factions. There's the Craft World, which are the normal Eldar, which are the Space Elves. Then there's the Drukhari, which are the Dark Eldar. The Drukhari are very sadistic. If you've ever seen the Hellraiser movies, they think that's adorable. They would think that the Cenobites are adorable amateurs. Then there's the Harlequins, which are basically... Oh yeah, I did find her relatable as well. The Harlequins and the Eldari are basically... If the Joker had a... Well, not the Joker. Joker would be a bad example of the Harlequins. Space Elves that dress up as... It's like Space Elves theater troupe. They do a lot... They're very theatric. But they're an interesting, like, neutral faction. Then outside of that, Eldar, there's one of the most popular factions is the Orcs, spelled O-R-K-S. Everything is like ramshackle, Mad Max sort of thing, and they speak with Cockney accents. And Orc philosophy is hilarious. They paint their vehicles red because they believe the red ones go faster. But what's interesting with the Orcs, if they believe something hard enough, their like collective psychic ability, which it's like if enough of them believe something to be true, it'll actually start being true, and it'll manifest itself like that. So if their basic guns, which are basically just pieces of scrap metal slapped together, if they believe it's a gun, it'll start shooting. Oh, they are the orcs are levity in how messed up the 40K universe is. I do want to do an orc army. It's just orcs are. I've already got enough armies that are on the back burner, and I gotta finish work on getting those done first. Okay, so we got the second arm finished of the chain glaive. All that's left now are it's the ranged weapon, which is called a thermal lance, which uses Melta technology. And Melta, it's basically Melta weapons. It's like a super concentrated heat beam that burns with the intensity of a sun. It can melt tanks into puddles of slag. But they're also very short range as well because of heat dissipation. That's not the most terrifying weapon in 40K though. There are some factions which are, well, there's the Necron. Actually, Plasma and Melta are actually separate tech. Plasma is like unstable. Plasma is pretty much like electrified gas being used as a weapon, but Melta is the best way to describe it. It's using fusion reaction as a weapon. So there, yes, Hershey, I hear you whining. Yeah, but yeah, Plasma and Melta tech are different. I mean, Plasma is powerful, but it's unstable with the Imperium. So the Plasma it's based off incomplete technology. So if they use it on lower power settings, it's okay to use. But if they crank it up, it could explode when they try to shoot it. Let's see, other factions. Let's see, I did the orcs. There's another faction called the Necrons, which are that's actually one of the armies I'm going to be doing next. They're like one of the oldest. They're like one of the oldest races in 40K. They've been around since the time of the dinosaurs. So they're like millions of years old, but they're like a mechanical race that used to have like physical bodies of like organic flesh and blood, but through trickery they transferred their souls into these machines, and they basically look like it looks like an army of Terminators from the Terminator movies, because they look like robotic skeletons. That fight, and the Necron's main weapon is called Gauss weaponry, which just rips you apart at the molecular level. Okay, we put him in his kennel. The Necrons. There's another faction that's called the Tau. The Tau is kind of, until more recent editions, the Tau were the closest thing to like a good guy faction, because it was all, their philosophy was all about the greater good. It was like the Tau was kind of like the Star Wars Republic in a way, or the Federation from Star Trek, but they also had their own dark side to it. Their designs are unique because they're very inspired by Asian, like Japanese. They look like they pilot mechs from anime. So it's like, if you're into like Eastern culture or anime, the Tau is a good choice for you. And they're kind of unique as well. They're blue skinned. They have hoofs instead of feet, If you've played World of Warcraft, it's kind of like the Draenei, but without the horns. And the Tau don't have tails. But their technology is like very advanced. They use a lot of drones. They use plasma rifles. They use giant rail guns, missiles. It's kind of like tech that I would say maybe in 50 to 100 years we could be pulling off something like that with our military. Except for faster than light travel, was I'm not sure how far away we're going to be with that. The most terrifying race in 40k though is going to probably be the Tyranids. The easiest way to describe what the Tyranids are: the xenomorphs from Alien. They're kind of like that, but there's like an almost infinite number of them, and they are just trying to eat everything in the galaxy. Like the Zerg from StarCraft were they were based on the Tyranids. Except there's not really a 40k equivalent to Kerrigan, because there is a Tyranid hive mind. It's just they've never shown what it looks like. It's more like a mass. It's like more of like a giant psychic network that the hive mind links all the Tyranids together. But they also have a sub-faction called Gene Stealer Cults, which is based off of one of their bioforms. And the Tyranids are purely organic. No, there's nothing mechanical. Their weapons are living symbiotic organisms. The most common weapon of the Tyranid infantry is called a flesh borer rifle, which shoots out little beetles that burrow into you. You're curious about the Tyranids? It's a lot of Lovecraftian design into them as well, with some of their units, some of their miniatures. But you can definitely, with some of the miniatures, you can see where Blizzard got the idea to do some of the Zerg units from. That's all I need to do the lead Beltron for the thermal lance on this one. So we're gonna get the other one done, and then I'll probably call it a night. I need to be up early tomorrow. Hopefully the rain is all dried up by then, because I need to do some trim painting, because I was gonna get it done today. Trim painting on the house, not on this. I got some house painting to do in the morning. I need to get it done before it gets too hot. Just had our roof reshingled. Oh yeah. Actually, there was one other 40k Imperium faction I forgot to mention, which was the Custodes. They are the personal bodyguards of the Emperor. It's a bunch, and they're all clad in gold armor. Very ostentatious with how they look. Yeah, if you want to go with another faction, the Tau is a good one. They're more ranged combat than melee, but then the Imperial Guard are very good at ranged combat as well. If you want to look more like Imperial Guard versus Tyranids is basically it's like the movie Starship Troopers. Okay, there we go. If you wanted to have like if you wanted to go with like a more melee oriented army, orcs. They're all about getting up close and personal and getting into a good scrap. And if you look at some of the orc designs, they are pretty cool looking. Some of the orc names for some of their units are pretty hilarious, pretty funny sounding as well. I think we're gonna call that a night tonight here, because I've got to be up early tomorrow. So I will see you guys. I'll see you all later. Oh yeah, the orcs that I was. Oh yeah, the orcs is if you see me play Warhammer 40K Space Marine.